Hi, today we'll have slightly different episode because there will be not only two of us, but three of us, and we'll discuss Rails upgrades and related topics. And our guest today is Piotr Rails Upgrade Jurewicz, which is an expert in Arkansas, one of the experts relating the upgrade projects, and because he has done hundreds of them probably. Just kidding, but a lot. So, hi Piotr, hi Tomek.
Hi, hello everyone. Yes, that's true. For last 20 months, I have been doing nothing but upgrades.
Great advertisement of the Arkansas company. Let's join us. Sorry.
I would say, by the way, we are hiring, but we are not. So you cannot join Piotr and do only upgrades for 20 months. All right. But I think it's not that bad because there's not so many people that actually fully understands what's going on when you upgrade, and they don't know all the small details that can cost you the downtime or some fuck ups when it comes to issues. And I hope that YouTube will not shadow ban us for saying the F word. All right, Piotr, would you like to take us through, I assume, your presentation that you prepared for one of the meetups? That will be part of it, but I think that's the most meaty part.
So I think we can start here with like semantic versioning. So in general, we have this semver.org page where you can see how the version is combined of three main parts, like major, minor, patch. And there is like also you can have something after that. You have like plus as or minus sign and the pre-release build, pre-release plus build, and so on. But in the Rails, in general they follow the pattern, right? But they a bit shifted it, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
They do it slightly different because in the original Semver implementation, you can only introduce breaking changes when you are bumping this first component, which is major version. But Rails, as I said, follows a shifted version, and they also sometimes introduce breaking changes for minor releases, and that's the difference.
And I even think that we on the end we have some examples, and I think we have also the breaking change on the minor. But yeah, I'm not recall it correctly, but we can check that later. Yeah, and there's also I think one interesting part like with the fourth element here, right on the end, which is we marked it as S, which means security, right here.
Yes, because nowadays we often see Rails versions that are made of 4 components instead of 3, and the story behind it is the Rails 4.0.11.1. That was the first release with 4 components. And the story behind is that Rails version 4.0.12 introduced some bug fix, but it also introduced some unrelated change. And Rails team to make the bug fix easier introduced this release between. So that was this first release.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go ahead too much, but does it mean that if there is just the security release, I can freely and safely apply it to my Rails application, and I shouldn't expect any breaking changes from that?
Yes, in general, yes. Of course, there is a risk that you depend on a faulty behavior, but I'm sure
Okay.
you don't.
Okay. But that's good. That's good news for us upgrading.
Because that's kind of like very small fix for one specific vulnerability, if I said that correctly. Yeah. hard word for me. Yeah, and here you can also see that this is the difference between how Rails sometimes mark their versions from what's the semantic version specification says, because it's like in semantic specification, the fourth element is after some plus or minus sign. Yeah, but that's. I think we wanted to mention that on the beginning because it will be the versioning, let's say, will be important for us later on when we define this migration strategy, for example, right? That will be. Yeah, but before that, where to start? Piotr, could you tell us how you start with upgrades? Yeah.
Yes, so in general, when we join to project we will be updating, we start with removing some unused dependencies because they only make the whole process more difficult. So it is always good to reduce unused dependencies. It is always good to have as less dependency as it is possible. So we look for unused gems, which is not so easy in Ruby environment. Then we look for some huge gems that there is only one function that is in use. So those gems are candidates for being inlined. And also we look for some gems that duplicate frameworks functionalities. Such a good example may be active record import that used to be very useful gem in the past, but it is no longer needed as Rails implements batch inserting now.
Okay, cool. But before we do it, okay, one thing about this one, I think because in one of the recent projects, we actually, when we were going through the list and we were removing some dependencies, I think we reduced number of gems by 20%, right? Something like that, I think. It was it was like quite huge number of gems that could be actually removed before we started updating, right?
Yeah, I also
Yes,
noticed
many
that.
people forget to remove dependency after their functionalities are no longer used.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I noticed that also a couple of times that you can see the gem and you actually look for the usages, but there is none, at least not the one that followed the documentation approach. And then if you look at the Git log, you can see that it was added and then it was removed and or changed to other gem, but the gem itself wasn't removed, and then you end up with the large gem file that is hard to upgrade. So.
Yes, but you should be very aware when dropping gems, because some gems are used in very non-strict manner and they extend some Ruby standard libraries. Yes.
I think that leads us to the other two bullets, right? Which is test and rollback.
Yes, I believe when you start with upgrades, you should consider if your test coverage is good enough. Especially if it is not, you should take care of rollback procedure. You should be sure that you can make it smooth. And the other advice is to do canary releases.
Okay. Hot topic recently.
Yeah.
Especially if you own Windows machine, right, Tomek?
Yeah. With Linux inside. Yeah. And I think we can also go to the, I've also put that from your presentation, right? Because that's kind of a start as well. The bundle outdated command and the bundle audit gem, right?
Right. So the bundle outdated is a command of bundler. and this is very useful to see where we are when we start and to track our progress. So we used to call it often. And the bundler audit is a separate gem, which is very useful to print all the CVEs of dependencies we have in our gem file. And it is a very good tool to grab those numbers and present it to our manager if he is against doing upgrades.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Actually, we've done that. We do that quite recently, right? In projects that we show how many of those vulnerabilities are and how many of them, for example, we fixed, right? And from there, I mean, I also like this part very much, right? Because we have when we like upgrading, there is always like some time window for every, let's say, release, that there are some kind of deprecated functionalities and methods and so on that will be removed on some future releases. And that's very important if we, for example, upgrade for very old Rails versions and Ruby versions, and we want to be up to date with the newest one. We have to take a look on those deprecations, right, and remove them also in our, let's say, the whole path to upgrade to the most recent versions, right?
Yes, with active support, it is very easy to collect deprecation warnings. I mean the ones coming from Rails itself, but many people do ignore deprecation warnings that come from Ruby. And this is why I have recently written an article on Arkansas blog.
We can link it, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
about collecting deprecation warnings coming from Ruby itself. It's tricky. It differs between Ruby versions and Rails versions. So the general idea is to have the same behavior for Rails and Ruby deprecation warnings so that you won't miss them.
By the way, regarding the Ruby deprecations, if you go to Piotr's article, you can see how you can set up the capture Ruby warnings for different Ruby versions. And there is basically the code that you can copy and paste into initializers. I did that myself. That's very helpful whenever you need to perform some upgrades on the older Ruby versions. So I encourage you to do that if you are below Rails 7.2.
And then if you solve deprecations, you can put them right here, right? So to the disallow deprecations, so you will not have them popped up again, right?
Yeah, it's very useful.
Yeah, and now that's what was very interesting for me, actually, the migration strategy, right? Because you don't have to
Yes,
go
I
one
think
by one.
I think this is the most important slide of my presentation because it is about your high level plan for upgrades. So let's consider a scenario that we are on Rails 6.02 and
So here,
we
right?
are aiming for Rails 7.1.3.2. So would you do 92 releases? That
Yeah,
That's not very effective, but I assume that if you don't know how to do that, you will probably go that path, right? Just because you will not break anything.
I would rather not. And the strategy that works for us is to always upgrade from the last patch version of the minor release to the next minor release. So in this specific example, there will be not 92, but 1, 2, 3, 4 releases.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's basically about, right, I think when I was doing this one, I've seen that it's like if you are on the 602, you go to the last patch for the current minor. So the current minor is 0. So you go to the 606, right? And there is one there's actually one with the security as well. So 6061. And then you go to the last patch version of the next minor. So the next minor is after 0 is 1, right? And the last patch of the one is like 6177. And then from that you go to the last patch of the first minor of the next major, right? Because you are 6, there is no nothing. There is no minor version 6.2, so you like go to this major 7, right? But still 7.0, right? The last patch is 7.081, and then you can go to the 7.132. And I think that's for that's the scenario for to go from 602 to 7.132, right? But now we have also 7.2
in 4 simple steps.
In 4 simple steps.
But that's only for Rails, right? So what would you advise when someone also has to upgrade the Ruby versions?
With Ruby versions, we use the same strategy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, but actually, that even sounds. I mean, what Piotr said on the beginning, that in Rails you can have those breaking changes on minor versions. So you have to be always be cautious about what changes were done in the minor versions. But even if someone follows the Semver, let's say, specification, and they don't do the breaking changes, this strategy is actually good, I think, for all upgrades. If they follow Semver,
it gives you additional time to collect those deprecation warnings that we were speaking about, and make required changes.
Just remember to read them after you collect them. Okay, and this leads us to another interesting thing. Question: How can I ensure? How can I check that I will not break anything? So, how do I know? What's changes? Where should I look?
So typically, developers store all the history in the changelog markdown file, but you can also spot history, news, or releases markdown files in root of the repository. If you do not find changelog there, you can also look to GitHub releases. It's modern way to store that history records.
And if there is no, right?
Yeah.
You can.
In the worst scenario, you should compare next release.
It's not so rare, right?
Yeah.
That you have to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So it's also like kind of art to have a great changelog file, right? I think in the presentation you were saying about it more about the changelog file, but we didn't include that here. Yeah, and I think now we can go to the Rise app update, right?
Oh man, that's painful. That's always painful. I saw Piotr doing this, and I was like, so Piotr, would you explain some?
It is painful unless you follow some specific tips that I'm sure you already know, because you were working with our upgrade team.
So sorry.
The first strategy to make Rise app update command easier to integrate with Codebase is to turn off the code formatter for the files that are overridden. And the second tip from me is to put all your custom settings below some magic comment in these specific files like application RB, production RB, development RB, and so on, so that the diff will be easier to understand.
Okay, and from there we can go to the new framework defaults RB, right?
Yes, and they are part of this race update procedure. So with each upgrade, you get this file called new framework defaults. And it is important to switch those settings one by one. We don't want to do it all together. Always we must to remember to stay safe.
I think we always,
usually-
when we change one, right, we also go to the, let's say, to the logs dashboards and so on, and we see whether everything
Yes.
works, right? And finally, when we, let's say, when we go through all of them, we remove the file, right? And we use the defaults. We load the defaults, right? And I think last but not least, some kind of examples of difficult upgrades. Do you recall any funny story about it, Piotr? Any fuck up?
F word, man.
F word.
I believe each entry that you can see is related with some fuck up story.
I'm just kidding. I like the F word.
We don't monetize, right? Our ideas, so
Not yet.
not yet. Yeah, but I think also what I said on the beginning, right? I think here the 5. This one is quite breaking change, right? In the 5.1, for example, which is like
In the minor.
yeah, minor version.
Ruby 3.0 is an upgrade that usually take some time because you have to upgrade multiple gems because there is a significant syntax change.
All right, and if you're curious why you should upgrade, we have a separate video about that, which will be linked somewhere here. And thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us, Piotr, with your expertise, and hope to see you soon. Maybe you'll tell us some duck up story about the Rails upgrades. Hope to see one. I know we have a couple, but not so. I mean, I was participating in one. But okay, thank you for watching and see you next time.
See you.
See you.